Everyone, and welcome to my template tutorial. I'm excited to show you how to scrapbook with a layered template in Adobe Photoshop Elements. If you aren't familiar with this program, you will enjoy my previous tutorial about getting started with Photoshop Elements, or also known as PSE, and I will link to that in the comments. I'm Katie Nelson, and I'm known as Katie the Creative Lady. You can find me on my website at katiethecreativelady.com and various social media channels. When you go to my website, you'll see two ways to get to my shop, this top navigational bar or using the icon on my main page. Once you get to my shop, you can even sort by category. And in this case, where I'm talking about templates, you could click on templates just to see all of the template sets I've designed. I am designing new ones all the time, so if you want to keep up with what I'm doing, be sure to check back on my blog or you can subscribe to my newsletter. Just go to the top navigational bar on my site and click subscribe. Enter your email and you'll receive a free newsletter twice a month. You can even get my blog posts through your email inbox if you prefer to receive them that way. Once you have a template set downloaded, you'll want to unzip the file. When you're on a Mac, you just click on the zipped file to unzip it, or if you're on Windows 10, you should be able to right-click on the file and choose Extract All. Or you can Google based on your specifics. So if you're using Windows 8, just ask Google how to unzip a file in Windows 8. You'll see in all my template sets that I include both PSD and TIFF versions. This is simply a matter of preference. You don't have to keep both of these folders if you're worried about hard drive space. PSD is Photoshop and Photoshop Elements. That's their native layered file. TIFF is also a layered file format, and TIFF can be spelled either TIFF or TIF. You'll see it both ways. A lot of experts feel like TIFF is a bit of a superior file format because it can write bigger files and take up a little less hard drive space. Now, it's not a big difference either way, so if you prefer one or the other, it's really not a problem. I like TIFF files because you can visually see them even on a Windows machine. On a Mac, you can visually see both of them. And so I will show you what that means. When you're in this folder, I can see what the layout looks like instead of this just being an icon that says PSD and me having to open it to see what the layout design is. That's really important to me because I like to think about how many spaces I need for photos and cards and journaling when I'm deciding what kind of template to use. This gets easier the more layouts you create. So if that seems overwhelming for you right now, don't worry about that. It will get better. For this tutorial, I'm just going to focus on the single page templates. I'll address double page templates in a different tutorial. Now I am going to open up my computer programs and show you how to scrap using a template. Now there's three easy ways to open a template or a photo or any file for that matter. You can use the top menu bar and go to File, Open, and then you will navigate to where that file would be and simply open it. So that is one way to do that, and that works just great. Another way would be is if you are in the folder itself, you're trying to look and decide which template you're going to use, and you decide, you may say, okay, I want that one. You'll right click on it, hit open with, and then choose your program that you want to use. That again opens that layered file. I'll close that and show you the third way. There's always more than one way to do something, it seems, in this program. And I love that because it makes it really versatile. In this case, I'm in the folder where the template is. I'm going to click on it and drag it into my Photoshop Elements workspace. Really easy. Okay, I am going to actually use a different template for my project. So I'm going to go to that folder and show you there. I've decided to do a Halloween layout, And I designed a set of templates to go with my Halloween collection. Now these templates don't have to be used for only Halloween projects. I just like to release a collection all at the same time. And so it's fun. I'll use the color scheme to do those templates too. So this is going to be a good one for me because I have a handful of photos and I know I want to include a pocket card and I want to include some journaling. So I don't need a ton of photo spaces, but I need several. So I am going to open with Photoshop Elements Editor. You always want to make sure when you're working in Photoshop Elements on digital scrapbooking that you are in the expert window, the expert mode. That's where you'll be doing your creating. And when you go to use a template, I always suggest the first thing you do is rename it. Because the nice thing is about having a template is this is reusable. You can use it over and over again for all sorts of different layouts, and you'll get a different look each time because you'll have different photos and different papers and different details. And you don't want to rewrite the template file that I've designed because then every time you open it up, you will have to delete the photos that you have added, delete the papers that you have added. So in this case, it's like you're making a copy of this template design. I'm going to choose File, Save As, and the big key is you want to get it to a different folder than the one where I have my designs for you to use. In this case, I'm just going to save it to my desktop. There are several reasons why I do that. I like to have an easy to find place while I'm working on the template because if I have to leave suddenly and go fix dinner or something like that, I can come back to it and it's easy to find. Once I've finished the layout, I do file it somewhere different, and I'll talk about that as well. So I'm going to name what I'm doing. I use a standard format in all my layout naming. It's taken me years to figure this out, but I always start with the year and then the month, and then I will add a title of something that is relevant to the layout. I'm going to still keep this in TIFF format because I want to be able to come back and add to it if needed. And you can see these settings. I don't even actually use the elements organizer at this point, so I could uncheck that. It just came with that. So just notice what your settings are and hit save. Now you'll also get another window, and this may panic you at first. You may think, am I supposed to be changing anything on here? These are the defaults, and this is what I've found to work very well. If you're worried if yours are set up right, just compare your screen to mine. But there's not a lot that you need to worry about on this screen. Just hit OK. I do want to just talk a little bit about how my templates are designed. I always allow plenty of space for bleed when they're printed in case anything got cut off. That does happen in printing, especially if you are creating a photo book. You might lose some of this area in what's called the gutter when you have two pages next to each other. A lot of times the printers will fit to their page specifications and you lose a little bit that you have in these areas. I never put something that's so important in those areas that you would be sad if you lost it. So even though this is a border that will be decorative, it will be okay if a little bit of it is cut off. I've learned these lessons the hard way by having many layouts that came back with important things cut off. So I hope that you will benefit from my years of trial and error. I always add a very slight shadow to all the photo spaces. You can tell that by, if you look over here on each space, you'll see a little FX symbol, and you may wonder what that is. You can click on that at any time and see my shadow settings. And these, again, are from years of trial and error. These are the settings I like. Some people have different preferences for shadows. They like a bigger shadow or a smaller shadow, and you can adjust those there. I would suggest that you just keep the ones I have put in there for you because it makes it so much easier. And I will do another tutorial down the road about shadowing. But for now, I wanted you to understand what those were. If you ever wanted to turn off your shadows, all you need to do is right-click on that area in the stack and hit Clear Layer Style. So now I have all these photo spaces ready for you to fill, and they are already pre-shadowed. I have an area for journaling and an area for some decorative paper. Now you may think, well, that's fairly straightforward. Why can't I just do that on my own? And you could, but I want to show you why using a template is so wonderful. So say that I decide that I'm going to create a layout without using a template. So I would come up here and hit File, New, Blank File. I would choose my 12 by 12 inches with my 300 pixels per inch. And by the way, that's what my templates are saved at. And I'd hit OK. Now I have a blank screen, blank canvas. Okay, I would like to scrapbook using these photos from Halloween. So say I will drag that one in and maybe this one. And you can see they all open up in what is known as my photo bin down here. They're not on the canvas yet. I will add one more. Okay, now I want to add those onto my canvas by just dragging them from my photo bin. You can see they're coming in even at different sizes. I took a few on, I believe, my daughter's phone, which was an older version, and so those are a little smaller. And then this was a newer phone, so they came in a little bigger. I would like them all to be the same size. So I'm going to grab those corners. Remember, as you resize photos, don't grab from the side. Use those corners, make sure you have the double arrow, and resize your photos. Now those are all still pretty big. I'm going to, in my layer stack over here, select each one. I'm going to hold down the Command key, or I could use the Control key if I was on Windows, and I'm going to select them all while I have that button pushed. That way I'm making a multiple selection. And I am going to resize them all. Now, at this point, I still have to place them, and you can see that they're really still not exactly the same size. They're close. I think I actually did pretty good on that. Okay, well, that's not great spacing, so now I've still got to resize them to get them to fit across the row. You can kind of see already where I'm going with this. It's a lot more work, and I've done that work for you when I've designed a template. Now here's another thing. Are they spaced evenly? Well, the way to check would be to go to View, pull up your grid and your rulers, and do your measuring and make sure you don't accidentally put it down. You want to make sure they're all aligned. I think you can see why using a template where somebody else has done that work for you is so appealing. I still use templates all the time when I go to scrapbook, and I've been digital scrapbooking for more than 15 years. I am going to keep those photos open because they will be used on this layout. So I want to show you how much easier it is now as I put these photos in on the template. The main thing you want to do as you go to fill each space is be sure to click on the space you want to fill. That can simply mean you use your mouse and click on it, or you can come to the layers stack and click there. So I am starting with this first photo space. Then I'm going to drag this photo of my daughter in her Hufflepuff gear. This was her senior year in high school. And I'm going to move that over the space where I want. Now that's quite a bit bigger than the space. I'm going to try to get it close to the square or to the rectangle underneath. I'm not going to worry about getting it exact because the template will do that work for me. There it is. Now the important thing is to clip it to that shape below. There are a couple of ways to do this. The way I use the most is I come over to the stack where it is and I right click and I hit Create Clipping Mask. Now you can see the outlines of where that photo has been, where the size of the photo is, and you can see how it clipped very nicely in there. I can still, while that's selected, resize it more. I can move it if I wanted to shift it off center or have it centered. There are a lot of options. You want to make sure though that your photo area is larger than the shape it is clipped to, or be very close to it. I'll show you what I mean as I get going through this layout. If you're interested in using shortcuts, there are tools called keyboard shortcuts. If you go to the adobe.com website and look in the Photoshop Elements area, or you can simply search in this toolbar for the keyboard shortcuts for Photoshop Elements. You can even download the file to have. A lot of people try to memorize these. They know that if they want to use different tools, they can simply type these keys in. I honestly don't use them. I know a lot of people do. So that's just another option for you. Like I said, there's often different ways to do the same task in this program. I am going to put another photo in. This one will be of my son dressed as Luigi from the Mario and Luigi game. And you can see it brings the photo right to the center, and it will bring it in as the size that the photo is. So you are going to have to do a little quick resizing, which is not a big deal at all. Now say if you line that up and you don't have it bigger than the space it's going to be clipped to, when I clip it, you're going to still see the shape. That's something you want to avoid. Now, even if you do that, you don't have to unclip it. All you have to do is use your arrows and fill that space a little more. So easy. I love it. I will fill in a few more. I'm still kind of deciding how I want to put this layout together, and I usually start to get a pretty good feel as I put in a few photos. Often before I go to create the layout, I will look through a few of my decorative supplies and see what I want to include. Now here's another trick. Say if you like how that pumpkin is placed and you just want to move it just to one side or up and down a little bit, you can even use your arrow keys on your keyboard and just nudge it a little bit using the arrow keys. In this case, I have looked through all of these Halloween pictures from the year 2013 and decided on which ones I wanted to use. And as I get looking at this layout, I think I don't really need to use all of them. These two aren't really part of the memory I'm scrapping here. I'm really kind of focusing more on what everybody dressed up as, their costumes. This one I can still include, but it wasn't from actual Halloween. It was from an earlier party we had gone to in the month. And I got looking at this one. This was our pizza we had on Halloween night, but it's not anything really important to that layout, so I probably won't use that either. I do have this one of my husband playing a game with one of my daughter's friends, and so I want to include that. That was part of our evening. Again, just resizing, laying over that space that I want it to clip to, and right-click, create clipping mask. I have one more photo that I want to be sure to use. Again, I could drag that in, I can open it that way, and I will put that on that space. And I'm going to save that top middle spot for a cute decorative card. Okay, this one, I kind of want to trim off some of that stuff on the side. He's standing next to a doorway, and that's not really important. So create the clipping mask. You can still see it's in the photo, so I'm going to grab that just a little bit more and fill that frame more with him. It's such an easy way. You don't have to try and crop your photos before you're scrapping with them. You can just put them right into the template and let them do the work for you. So now I have this spot. There are different things I could do with this spot. I could use it for journaling, but I feel like I'll have plenty of space up there. So I am going to go to my Halloween cards that I have designed. They are part of this collection. And this is the one that came to my mind because it's all about dressing up. And this one is Who Do You Want to Be Today? Which, the Oingo Boingo song for those of you who are from the 80s like me. And this one has all these different costumes. So I'm going to open that and put that right in there. This one, because it'll go on a white background and it's the same size as that template spot, you may be a little worried, how am I lining that up perfectly? Like, you don't have to worry too much because it's on a white background. It really won't show if you miss it a little bit. And this almost acts like a title for my page because it's kind of got that theme. So I really love that. It's not a bad idea to save occasionally as you go. Because you've renamed this and you know it's going to a different area, you could just hit save. I do want to show you if you hit save as, you can be sure it is still going to that area where you were saving it to. It's okay to replace this file. This is a file that is not rewriting the original template design. This is now your creation. Okay, at this point, I often close out the photos I've already used, so I feel like my photo bin doesn't get too cluttered. Again, you can have Command or Control push down while you're selecting all of these and close them all as a group. Just makes it a lot faster. Now it's time for some papers. This is always a fun part for me. And I am going to go into my folder of Halloween fun papers. I often will work with a solid or a very subtle print for my background where I'm going to have journaling. That's, of course, a personal preference. In this case, what's nice about having a template is you have a little bit of time to play around with different options. So you can see again, I just dragged that in over the space where it's going to go, this bottom fill with paper space. And I do like the way that looks. I will probably try something else too. This top border is great for a patterned paper. I'm going to use these pumpkins because I think they're fun and festive. And I will click on the top border. I'll drag that paper in so it covers that top border. Come over here and create clipping mask. Then I could use a different paper down here, but I like that pumpkin paper. I'm going to drag the pumpkin either over that again, or another shortcut would be I can come over here, duplicate the pumpkin paper that's already in there by just right-clicking, duplicate layer. Then I drag it down to cover the section I want to clip it to. So that's cute. I do think I could get away with a little subtle pattern here and still be able to read the journaling. You could go ahead and delete that paper and add a new one. As long as you don't get too many layers going, sometimes it's okay to just put one in over it, and then you can swap back and forth to see what you prefer. So this is a little gray Chevy design, chevron, and I'll click on the background and I'll put that in. Now I quite like that. If I want to get a quick before and after, all I need to do is turn off one of the layers, the top one. So if you look at this eye, that indicates the layer visibility. If you turn the eye off, you can't see that layer anymore. So which one do you prefer? I like the design. I think that's fun. Now I'm ready for journaling. I am going to show you, you're gonna have to watch me type for a minute. It's a little hard to talk and type at the same time, but I want you to see what happens as I use this text box. I do design my text boxes with a very standard font. So if you double click within the text box, you'll be able to see the font details. This is Myriad Pro, and I will set the font size and the spacing between the font. You can adjust those if you want. Say you have more to say, you want a smaller font, you want a bigger font because you want to make sure it's easy to read. I don't like to use too small fonts because it is hard for you to read once it's printed if it's too small. And you could change the color of the font. I like the white version here. Once you've double clicked that and everything's selected, all you have to do is select delete on your keyboard and then start typing. And I'm going to do that so you can see what happens when I reach the end of this, because I do have more to say than what I have allowed space for here. And that's okay, because this is kind of like a placeholder for journaling. Again, like I said, it's a little hard to type and talk at the same time. So I hope you don't mind watching me for a minute. Oh, see, now you can see I reached the end. Where did it go? Well, it's still in there, but your text box is not big enough to show it. So at this point, you want to make sure you've got a double-sided arrow and you pull down on that text box. And you may think, well, the spacing's off. It's too close to the photos, but don't worry about that yet. Go ahead and finish typing what you were going to type, and I'll show you how to fix that. Another thing you can do is you could type this ahead of time in Word and then just copy and paste it in too. Okay, that is my full journaling. I might even just add a few more spaces so that is over a little farther. Now at this point, like I said, it feels a little too close to those photos. I can grab my mouse and move it up, or I can, again, while it's selected, use my arrow keys and just nudge that up a little bit more. I could even decide I want to center it a little more over the photos. So you have a lot of control, and it's an easy way to make sure that you tell your story, which I always think is so important. And now that it's done, you want to still save the layered file again. This is your final creation, but you want to always be able to come back in and fix it in case you want to. There are times where you may think of something later in the day that you wanted to include. You say you printed it and realized you had put something really wrong in the journaling, a total misspelling or something. You can come in and fix it after because you have the layered file saved. Then you always want to save a flattened version because when you send it to a printer, they will not print a layered file. So now you save as a JPEG file, which is a flattened version that retains all the quality, and that will save it as a new file. I'll hit OK. Oh, and I've covered this before in a tutorial, but I just want to highlight this here. As you save a JPEG, make sure that you are using the highest quality of 12, that this is slid over all the way to the large file size. That will give you the best results for printing. Now, if you look to where I saved this to on my desktop, you can see I have both the layered file and the final flattened file. And there are a couple ways you can go about this. You can leave them there until you've sent it to the printer. You could have a filing system where you file those away. Now, we'll just go back and show you all the great things that you have learned. I think it's important to pat yourself on the back. Excuse me, I just started that a little bit wrong. So it's important that you pat yourself on the back and remember that you have learned a lot of new things by watching this tutorial. So now you know where to find my templates, why I include TIFF and PSD options, how you can decide which template to use, and 3 ways to open a template or a photo, and why and when you would want to save your project, why you should use a template, how come it's so much easier, how to fill in the spaces in the template, different ways to clip photos and papers, and including where to find your PSE shortcuts, why there's shadows and how to make those adjustments, how to use and adjust the text box, and how to save your project even when you're not done, and how to save your completed layout. So I'm so happy that you joined me today, and I hope that you will like this tutorial and subscribe to my channel so that you can find more tutorials from me. Thank you. Bye.